Hi, I'm Bob Lederer, editor and publisher at RFL Communications, and welcome to the May 7th, 2012 edition of Research Business Daily Report. We hope you all had a tremendous weekend. Demographers who devote their time to the understanding of America's different generations now have a new group to study. Boomers, straight through millennials, will be sharing the stage and the attention of researchers with a new generation that have been dubbed pluralists. Actually, this group's emergence was inevitable because the youngest millennials were born no later than 1996. But naming rights for this first 21st century generation fell to its identifier, Maggot Generational Strategies, a division of Frank and Maggot Associates. It took the company 8 years of research and analysis to get a really good handle on the distinct patterns of this group. But there's way more to them than their young age, even at this point, and you'll hear about that in a moment. Maggot's senior management told us to speak with Vice President of Generational Insights, Rich McGuire, for the lowdown. So, Rich, where does the name Pluralist Generation derive from?
The Pluralist Generation name comes from the pluralistic society that's currently taking place here for this pluralist generation. It's a combination of the lack of a dominant race. This will be the last generation with a Caucasian majority, and actually over time will be the first generation where there's no dominant race, making up more than 50%. So that's one key element of it. Also, there's factors involving the pluralistic nature of business and media and politics, things that are happening in the schools, where things have become more fractionalized for the country and particularly impacting this pluralistic generation. So that's kind of where the name came from. It's one of the attributes of this type of generation, and certainly will impact their mindset as they continue to grow and age here in the United States.
What hope does Maggot have that that name's going to stick and become an industry standard?
We'd like for it to stick. We think it makes sense. We think we've put a lot of thought into it. It's been a number of years since we really gave some serious thought to it. Clients were interested in wanting to know about the next generation. We saw that in a couple years from now that demographics of the country were going to be changing. And we think it's an appropriate name. It's not related to technology or a fad. It's not out there from some business that's trying to do some sort of consumer segmentation. We feel it's a name that really encompasses all the elements that are impacting the generation today, and also will continue to impact them as they deal with issues of growing up in a pluralistic society. They'll be the leaders of the country.
This isn't the first time that you have had your group focusing on these youths, because they're, what, 8 to 15 years old right now?
Well, in terms of the research that we're conducting, they're 8 to 15. We consider anyone under 16 to be part of the pluralistic generation. And about 8 to 10 years ago, we began looking at generations more keenly, beginning when millennials were around 8 or 9 years of age. So we've been looking at millennials for a number of years and been studying the youth market in particular over a number of years, and we've seen the millennials get older. They're 16 to 35 years of age now. We have a good idea of the impact that parenting has on young kids and the mindset and the behaviors that they adapt over time, and whether they hold those over time or whether they become more like their parents. And what we definitely saw with millennials is that millennials are behaving like millennials. They aren't behaving like their parent baby boomers. And
those parents are really critical because that's your gateway to get to the pluralists, isn't it?
It definitely is. It's when we're talking about conducting research with children, we employ a lot of different techniques with survey research, qualitative approaches in terms of doing ethnographies and going into the home, conducting research with kids in dyads and triads and in focus groups. Having them complete collages and other exercises that they might be more familiar with. And you definitely have to be talking to the parents when you're conducting research with kids. And so it's important to understand the mindset and the things that are important to the parents of this generation, which in most cases right now are Generation X parents, which behave differently than baby boomer parents.
Okay, good. How earnestly are your clients interested in this new generation that you've identified?
Well, they've been asking about it for a while. We have a number of clients that are very interested in the teen and tween market, in addition to the mom marketplace as well, and understanding and targeting and reaching them. They've been asking about it for a couple of years. We wanted to find out as much as we could about the generation before rolling out a particular name for them, though we've continued to look at them for years. And when we release this information to them, we've been out presenting the data to them. It's been very well received. It's been very insightful. There's a lot of energy and excitement about really having a much better understanding of plurals now, about young people, because they're not the millennials, and people need to kind of recognize that this generation is a different generation than the millennial generation. Their parenting styles, the parents that they have, will make them dramatically different. The society that they're growing up with, the technology that they're growing up with, that they're accustomed to, their mindset, really makes them different than the millennial generation.
Okay. Now, I know you've been really focused on this, particularly the last 2 years since the latest census was conducted and came out. How well do you think you've got a handle on this new generation, or do you have a lot of work yet to do?
Well, it's a bit of a work in progress, but I think we have a very good idea of what this generation is about. Focusing on the 8 to 15-year-old, the older half of the generation, and the parents of that generation, we really have a very good understanding of their parents. We have a good understanding of what the older half of this generation is about. We know that there'll be some shifts over time, and we're going to continue to study and understand them. We know there's some concepts and some attitudes that they haven't developed or even thought about. But we've definitely seen indications in our research, qualitatively and quantitatively, that the pluralistic generation is reflecting many of the same attitudes and beliefs that their parents, their Gen X parents in particular, have and have instilled in them. And so that gives us great confidence in knowing where they're going in the future.
Okay. Rich, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Bob. I appreciate it.
McGuire says the pluralist generation will lead an unprecedented transition to a multicultural, pluralistic society. I think that's going to shake up a lot of very tradition-bound Americans. Because they're so young, pluralists are living through but not really experiencing what the rest of us find to be unbelievable but all too real changes in our society. Things like an erosion of dominant traditional media, the rapid integration of fragmented and niche-based voices, growing conflicts from demographic changes, and the second longest economic decline in the history of this country. Pluralists will perceive the world very differently from their parents, and Maggot singles that out as an ongoing tumultuous change. To put things in context, our kids find a world without computers, cell phones, or color TV unfathomable. McGuire recommended a free Maggot Generational Insights white paper, which is downloadable at maggot.com/plurals. That's Research Business Daily Report for May the 7th, 2012. I'm Bob Lederer, hoping you have a great research day until we all get back together tomorrow.